Welcome back to the Jeremiah Show. Zain Effendi, Grammy-nominated composer, is here with me today, and I'm so excited. We had to postpone this interview once because he was to like 27 different parties for the Grammys. He was tired, but he's here today, and I'm so happy to see him. His accolades include Best New Composer at the Hollywood Music and Media Awards, an HMMA win for the Best Live Concert, beating out Jennifer Lopez. Whoa. Two Telly Awards, multiple World Entertainment Awards, and a special jury award at the upcoming Society of Composers and Lyricists Awards. He was Grammy nominated for Best Instrumental Composition for his piece Opening, which we heard in the beginning, and we're going to play at the end of the show in its entirety, so stay tuned for that. It's a breathtaking number created for Walt Disney's Epcot test track. And I cannot forget, since I'm naming all the awards here, I can't forget his 2025 award for Best Theme Park Music by the Hollywood Music and Media Awards. Zane's truly unique. Amazing composer with amazing orchestral skills, always pushing the boundaries of electronic music, and someone who brings huge cultural experiences to life. Welcome, Zane.
Hey, great to be here. That was a very kind introduction.
Uh, does it make you uncomfortable? I didn't see you squirming, but I had a feeling you were. When when someone goes through all your awards like that, is it just a little bit you get a little bashful, or are you proud?
It's actually I feel a bit disassociated with it all. It's crazy when you list it all and you're like, wow, that's what I've been doing, I guess, for the last 20 years in this business. But it's cool.
Where do you put all those trophies? You got like an entire wall, I bet, or a room.
It's getting out of control. Actually, I have some sitting on the piano and then on bookshelves, but I do want to get like a really nice setup, and just
Hmm.
dedicate an entire wall and make it look nice. When I was at Hans's studio working with him, he would put them in his bathroom, in his guest bathroom.
Oh,
Um,
that's cool.
I think his Oscar
I
was in
guess.
the it was in the bathroom. So I don't know. Everyone has their own like way of doing it.
Yeah, that's funny. You just need to get like enough chairs where when you bring your guests over, you can all sit in front of like all your awards and just bask in your glory that they can all share. um, so for those, I'm glad you brought up Hans Zimmer. For those who may not recognize his name, who is he?
Oh, Hans Zimmer, I would say, is the titan of film scoring, undisputed. He, he's pretty much the godfather right now
Yeah.
of film music, and just about anyone who's anyone in the music industry for film and TV has some degree of association with Hans Zimmer, whether they made coffee for him or recorded on one of his projects. I mean, he's
Hmm.
the king.
He's got a lot of composers working for him. I think currently, right? If I'm not mistaken, I was looking up who has worked for him or is working for him, and wow, what an amazing list that of composers that work for the remote control productions.
It's quite extraordinary, and there's something to be said about going through that camp. I always say it's the
Hmm.
Navy SEALs of film music. You come out and you're just like, it's like going through the Navy SEALs. I mean, it's
Yeah.
very tough. But when you come out on the other side, if you survive, you have a really great chance of having a solid career.
Yeah. Well,
You
look
know.
at you, man. Look at you. What a great experience. So tell me the story of how you first met Hans Zimmer.
Oh yeah, that's a wild story. I guess I would start the story in my teens. I was just wildly ups. I grew up in the '90s, and
Hmm.
I call that the golden era of cinema, even though technically it's not, because that was the advent of like IMAX, and THX, and you had like these blockbuster films like Jurassic Park, and these huge, Gladiator and huge experiences that were very cinematic. And I would go to I would go to every movie, and but very very young, at a very young age, I really started to identify with specifically movies that Hans Zimmer scored. Lion King, I think, was the first one, and I was like, "This is just amazing." I went home and played the whole thing by memory on the piano, and I would have like recurring dreams about, seeing him in an alley, and he would say, "I'm gonna bestow all my secrets and then share them with you." And it was like this thing I had when I was a teenager. I'd go and buy DVDs with, that he scored, movies he scored, and I wouldn't even watch the movie. I just watched the behind the scenes and him talking about the process of making that score. So I was just fascinated by him, and I ended up going to college in the East Coast and studying film composition with no idea how I was going to make it in Hollywood. I don't have any friends or family, so I couldn't rely on nepotism. Unfortunately, it was just like, it was going to be dumb luck or extreme failure. And I just happened to make friends with someone in a conducting class. To this day, he's one of my best friends, and he's an angel. He was, I think, a semester ahead of me, so he ended up, leaving before me from Berkeley, and he had an internship in LA. And I said, "Hey, where are you going to work?" He's like, "Oh, I'm going to work for this composer named Hans Zimmer." And I was like, it was an aha moment. Like,
No way.
Here's like my buddy, my close buddy, and he's about to go work with Hans Zimmer. So I gave him my demo, and I was like, if anything opens up, dude, I mean, it would be the wildest dream come true if I could get just a chance to like meet him or interview or just, I don't know, shine his shoes, for God's sake. So sure enough, a couple weeks later, he calls me on my phone. I'm in the middle of class, and it said Daniel Heath, and I was like, oh, here it is. Like, this is the moment. Like, I answer the phone. He's like, "Man, get on a red eye right now. Leave Boston Logan Airport and get here by tomorrow morning. I got you an interview at Hans' studio."
Wow.
And so I dropped out of college that day, and I packed a duffel bag, came to LA, and and that was it. I mean, I started working at Hans' studio, and I still have not been back to Boston. This was 2006. I never went back. I had a date that there was a girl that I'd been trying to ask out for like 3 years. Finally, she said yes, and I had to call her and say, I can't make it. I'm working on Pirates of the Caribbean right now.
Yeah. Well, that's a good excuse for not showing up, but even a better excuse for dropping out of college, like especially music college. Why are you dropping out? I'm gonna go work for Hans Zimmer.
It was
Okay,
it wasn't a tough decision. Yeah, it wasn't a tough decision, but I'd been in Boston for like 5-6 years. I started at the conservatory, and then I left to Berkeley, and so to not leave with any sort of diploma was a little tough. But then I found out that there's a thing, and there's like this curse. Like, if you graduate Berkeley, you're not going to make it or something.
Oh no.
But if you drop out, you do. And so I guess I was lucky that I dropped out.
That's sort of like, I just read in Vanity Fair, the curse of the Grammys. Apparently, when you win a Grammy, it kind of kills your career. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't really traced any of the, but it's like there's a whole story, a whole curse.
Well, you're making me feel really good now about that.
Yeah.
About this.
But the Grammy nominated, there's no curse, and they go all the way. Grammy nominated people. Well, so you said that you kind of described working at Remote Control Productions as like the Navy SEALs or something. What can you describe that behind the scenes vibe at Remote Control Productions? Because I know there are so many fans out there right now wondering what the experience is like.
The reason I say the Navy SEALs, what was that movie? G.I. Jane. I mean, there's all these movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Where they have that bell, and like if they ring the bell, they're like released, from hell or whatever. And I mean, so what it did is first of all, it's listen, he's undisputedly like the most active and successful like living composer. I mean, there's John Williams, there's other composers, but John Williams is not scoring like 7 blockbusters a year, plus like multiple TV series and a video game, and touring the continent doing like live concerts. I mean, so it's a remarkable amount of work. And when you get a film, like my last project with Hans was The Dark Knight, and at the
Wow.
time it was like the biggest movie in history,
Yeah.
and there was so much pressure on him, to deliver magic, and it kind of trickles down, and so we were all just working crazy hours. You work crazy hours in this business. So you don't have a lot of sleep. You have to be perfect, because the stakes are so high. So when you're recording like the London Symphony Orchestra, like there can't be mistakes. When Hans is in the studio all day, programming something, and then you have to go and print stems for him, they need to be perfect because it's the music that he's going to play for a director the next day. So the stakes are high, the pressure is high. There's no room for error or making mistakes. And you just, after like 5 years of that, you get in this mindset, like militant sort of mindset of perfectionism and high level of execution. So that's kind
Is
of
that the secret, do you think, to Hans Zimmer?
he's the
Hans
hardest
Zimmer
working,
and
he's the hardest working guy I've ever met, without a doubt. I mean, he's the first guy in the studio and the last guy that leaves, and he works every day of the year.
but he's got to create magic, is what you said. There's, he's got that pressure on him for he's got to come up with magic. Um, and that's through hard work, do you think? Or does he have something in him that's different, a lesson, something that you've noticed that where he's able to come up with 7 blockbusters a year and all the things that you say he does. Is there a secret sauce? Is there a secret to him that
I
you
would say
noticed?
it's a cocktail of like a couple things. He has incredible discipline, like nobody else. Nobody can work that much. Everyone will burn out, So there's that. He's an incredible theme. He writes incredible themes, and theme is king,
Hmm.
and that's something that can't be taught. That's just the gift.
Hmm.
And then lastly, he's a remarkable businessman, and a big part of this industry is selling your music to the directors and to the producers and the whole pitch, and I mean, he's a master of that. For instance, his studio is like the interior of a vampire set. It's absolutely gorgeous. You should look at it online. Red velour walls, matching floors and carpets, and it looks like a French brothel or something. I mean, it's just like very sexy and romantic, and it's a great place to sell your music in there because you get wrapped up in the ambiance.
Yeah.
It's all very masterful. I just he's amazing.
So was there one lesson? I mean, I'm sure you learned a lot of lessons, but is there one that you took from working with him? One that he taught you, or that you
Yeah.
that you use you've borrowed and that you use in your daily work?
Yes. Yeah. I would say the big one that I use, that can translate into any career, anything you're doing really, is I never assume that that it's good. I'm never sure of myself. That's what it is. I
Mm.
always triple check things, and I'm very precise about that. For instance, because of the training with him, there's a very low chance that I'm like burn down a house because if I think I might not have turned off the stove, like I will go check. Whereas most people I've noticed will just not check. They just assume that they figured it out or that they're
Yeah,
perfect, And for me, that's been a level of professionalism that's really helped me a lot.
that's a great one. What a great tip. What was the first instrument, Zane, that you mastered?
Piano.
Piano.
Piano was that's always been my main instrument. Piano is the composer's instrument. You have access to all the keys, and I think it's the most important instrument to start as a composer.
Now, how old were you when you were playing that piano? And was it a piano that you owned,
My
or was it
step my
borrowed?
Yeah, my stepdad was had a keyboard, a really inexpensive it was called a Clavinova, and it's like a very expensive electronic keyboard, very heavy, and you could put floppy disks in and record yourself. It was a pretty cool piece of gear, and he was taking piano lessons, and he was absolutely atrocious at the piano, and apparently, like, he wasn't his piano lesson had ended, and he was not even in the room. And my mom could hear like Bach being played perfectly. The thing that he had been, destroying all week was like perfect. And she like went in to see what was going on. And I was just like there playing the piano. I could barely reach it. So that's how it all started. The next day they bought me like a $30,000, Yamaha grand piano. He quit. He swore he would never touch a piano again. And I took his piano teacher. I took it over, his piano lessons. So.
Do you still have that piano?
I do. When I moved to LA from Berkeley, it was at my house in Colorado. Eventually, I shipped it out here, and then I went back to Colorado after 13 years in LA, and I bought a house there, and so I shipped it back to Colorado. So it's followed me around. It's followed me around.
Are you sentimental about it? I mean, it seems like that would be such a special thing in your life. If it was me, you started on that. How do you feel about it? Is it part of you?
I'll go as far as to say, like, I have some of my earliest memories were I would sleep under that piano when I was like 5. Like, I would like take naps under there, and I think the reason was I used to love to put my foot on the sustain pedal, and what it does is it opens up the keyboards so that all of the strings are now open. So if any noises occur, like a plane goes by or a siren, you get sympathetic resonating, strings. And it was like the coolest, especially under a grand. I don't know if you've ever laid under a grand piano, but it's like the coolest. It's amazing. It's like
I got to go do that. I'm going to put that on my list.
That was one of the first memories. I would just like lay there and and I just loved the experience of the sounds that it made.
That's a beautiful memory.
So yeah, I'm very attached. Story. I'm very attached to it.
When did you decide to go solo, and what led to that decision? Was there something that happened that said, "Hey, I'm ready," or I want, what happened?
I was this
seems
was
like a big decision.
It was huge. It was terrifying, and I was running at this point. Hans had hired me to run his entire sample department for The Dark Knight. So essentially, we were creating all of the instruments that he used to write that score. And it was a very technical job, and I really wanted to be just writing. That's it. And so I had to, get the courage and go. I did a shot of tequila, and I went in his studio and I said, "Hey, Hans," and he goes, "What?" I said, "I quit." And he goes, "It's about time." And that was it.
Hey, that says how much he cared about you, doesn't it?
It was amazing. I'm pretty sure he was sending me checks. It's been a while, but I'm pretty sure he kept sending me checks for a couple months after, and he signed them, so he knew it wasn't an accident, as kind of like a cushion for me.
Get you on your feet.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I'm so glad I left on good terms because he's a powerful guy.
Yeah. And what like that decision, I'm putting myself in your shoes. All your life you had sat in dark theaters and watched his movies over and over and admired him, and then you get this chance and encounter this, like winning the lottery, and you get a job. I mean, you're talented, but you get that opening and you go for it, and then eventually you realize it's time to set out on my own, and you do that. But that must have been such a hard decision.
Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was hard.
But no regrets, I'd imagine.
No regrets. One thing that people have to be prepared for, though, is the people I was around were like, Christopher Nolan and all these Gore Verbinskis and big directors. And when you leave a place like that, you're leaving a paycheck, first of all. And second of all, I had to start all over again in this town after half a decade, figuring out who I could, who would hire me to score their projects. And so I had to, basically just start from scratch as if I had just moved to LA crawl my way up the ladder, meeting directors and producers, and eventually getting my own management and agents and publicists, and building that team from the ground up. And that the first couple of years of doing that were really, really tough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Pretty tough.
But you did it, and that's pretty admirable. Well, you have this really great reputation from everything I've found on you and read on you for just an unwavering dedication to your craft. And if you could translate what that means, like, I'm going to see if I can get this question right. Translate an example. Give me an example of what that means, that dedication to your craft and something that you do. One of your maybe your one of your process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, the dedication to the craft. Well, would sacrifices count?
Mm-hmm. Oh
I
yeah,
think that's a big part.
What do you sacrifice?
Oh, everything. I mean, on this last project, I sacrificed, trips, events, birthdays, normal like life, because it was a 15-month production, and it was a lot of music to write, and not easy music. It was, it has to be continuous, and it has to constantly be growing, and there's no a typical song. You have lulls, you have moments that die down, and then the energy picks back up again.
Mm-hmm.
But with a ride, it's just always got to be 10. It's got to be right there, and it's got to be interesting. And so, it was a very, it was a very energy draining experience in that sense, like giving birth. And then, and so the sacrifice, my health really took a toll on my health. I mean, I was just not sleeping, and I'm just sitting in a dark room. I wasn't getting vitamin D,
Mm-hmm.
And I think I also, honestly, to be really frank, I also kind of made myself a little crazy. I obsessed over like themes. I was like, this is going to be at Disney for God knows how long.
Yeah.
And I'm going up against like, icons like the Sherman Brothers, who did all these rides that are just like right next door to my ride. And so I think I took all of that on, and it choked me a little bit. And I mean, not to be dramatic, but I was kind of like the character, like Leonardo DiCaprio in The Aviator.
Mm-hmm.
I was like in that room, and
Howard Hughes.
I was just like Howard Hughes, locked in the room, and just going crazy and being a perfectionist. And thank God my wife would come and save the day. She's like, listen, man, this is really good. You need to just send it to Disney and go to bed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
What's your wife's name? Let's give her credit for that. That's a good.
Yeah. Let's give her a shout out for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I was going to ask, how did you snap out of that? When you go down, when you're just ratcheting down and going one step further than you should, or that it maybe needs, how do you break that pattern? But
yeah,
maybe you just answered it.
I honestly, I don't think I could. I think I really do rely on family to pull me out and be like, man, even my mom did it before I was married. She would say, you're way too perfectionist. It's an OCD thing. And part of it's Hans's fault. Part of it's the industry. But going back to your question, I think that is that undying, relentless pursuit of the career and the craft. And that's, I think, really helped me a lot.
Well, if you don't mind, let's say your wife's name again, if you don't mind, to give her credit, because
Sure, yeah.
I talked over you.
No, her name is Coco Effendi, and she should have had a co-producer credit on this, because she literally listened to every cue.
She earned it.
The main theme was something I wrote like hundreds of versions. And I remember one day I was finally taking a bath, and I'm telling you, sometimes it's not so romantic, but sometimes it is. It's just like the movie, where the stroke of genius happens, and I was in the bath, and I came running out like with a towel and screaming bloody murder, and she's like, what's going on? I'm like, I figured it out. I have it, and I played it on the piano, and she was like, oh, that's it, and it was this amazing moment. So we got to share a lot of those, as well as the complete panic attacks that when I started the project, like, oh my God, like, how am I going to do this? Why did I say yes? So
Do you find that happens a lot, that you go one step further where it was good enough, like it was good, but then you just push yourself, that determination, that discipline, and you go one step further, and you're like, there it is. I'm glad I did that.
that's what I
Happy for
learned.
that. Yeah, that's
That's what
great.
I learned, and that's what Hans does. I learned that
Hmm.
from him. I learned that from him.
All right, so let's talk about your live performances. The Hollywood Music and Media Awards gave you the award for best live concerts, and the story goes that you beat out Jennifer Lopez. I don't know if you like me saying that or
I
anybody
love
else,
it.
but how did you do that?
First of all, I love it. I was on vacation finally because I had done the show and I was so burned out. We went and rented a house in Key West, and we were having the best time ever. And then my wife's like, "Hey, you just got nominated for a Hollywood Music and Media Award," and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is amazing!" And she's like,
Where are we going to put it?
"Yeah, well, first no, first we went through who am I going up against, and it was like
Hmm.
Jennifer Lopez for her tour, which was probably $500 million, I mean, budget wise,
Yeah,
and just, yeah, I mean, it's a stun. I saw it was stunning, and I had done this project for free with like a $10,000 budget, I think, for performers, and then the mix. I was, pulling favors, so it was just like literally, small money, and so I was like, well, that's cool. I'm nominated, but I'm definitely not going to beat her. And honestly, I don't think we should fly to LA and like ruin or like miss this vacation opportunity because it's not worth it. And then she's like, "Oh, you just got another nomination for best music for a theme park," and it was for the music I had done for Star Wars. And she's like, "We got to go now," and I was like, "Oh, I just don't want to leave like Key West. This is so nice, and I'm so enjoying this." And then I got a call from the president of the Hollywood Music and Media Awards, Brent Harvey, and he said, "Hey man, I'd love if you'd come. When you come, I'd love if you'd host, be a guest host or a presenter." And I was like, "All right, now I have to go,"
yeah.
But I really I didn't expect to win at all, and so it was just it was an incredible thing for sure. It was a
What
really
makes your show stand out? How do you prepare? Like, and what do you think is so appealing? What do you do that makes your shows such an experience?
well. One of the standout things is it was not a commercial project. It was very when Shambhala Music Festival, they built this new stage, and it's in a forest in British Columbia on a private farm, and it's like the Burning Man of Canada. That's what they call it. It was rated number one music festival in North America for a good reason. It's absolutely stunning. It's in this forest, and people camp in the forest, and then you take these trails, and there's tree houses, and there's paintings stuck to pieces of like the trees and the woods, and there's art galleries, and it's just such a really cool experience. But they built this stage, and it looks like the set of Game of Thrones, and they wanted to do an opening ceremony, and so they're like, would you be interested in working with us on that? And I said, all right, I'll do it, and I'm going to do it for free, so as long as I can do whatever I want musically. I can have full freedom, carte blanche. And they're like, sure. And so that's a dream as an artist, especially in my business. I'm
Yeah.
working for Disney, and I'm all these studios, and I'm just doing a service for them. It's ultimately their music and what they want, right? And so this was kind of the first time I got to do my thing. So I was like, all right, I'm going to record full orchestra, and then all of a sudden there's gonna be moments where it goes into like bass music and like drum and bass, and then I'm gonna have people on stilts like juggling fire and aerialists, and they're like, sure, let's do it, and so we put this show together right after COVID, and so we were doing it through Zoom meetings. I never saw the dancers or half the musicians till I got there, and when it came time for the show, I was staying in the VIP camping. they took me in a go-kart to the stage, and there were so many people, I literally couldn't find a place to stand. So me and the head of the VIP actually had to stand in a garbage can on top of beer bottles for half an hour, just so he could kind of get a peek at the show that I had spent 6 months doing. People wouldn't let me get in front of them. I mean, and it was just a huge hit. It was the coolest thing I've ever done, honestly.
You got some good stories there. That's stories of the industry.
Yeah.
What was that festival called? That sounds
It's
like
called Shambhala Music Festival. It's
Shambhala Music Festival.
Dance music. Yeah.
All right, so you are now a Grammy-nominated solo composer for Best Instrumental Composition for your song Opening, which we're going to play here coming up just a moment, so don't go anywhere. From your 70-minute, is it 70-minute or 27-minute symphonic electronic original score for Walt Disney Epcot's Test Track,
That's right.
released by Walt Disney Records. Was it 70-minute, Zane, or was it 27? I thought I heard you say 27.
Yeah, the actual project, I wrote 75 minutes.
75 minutes,
and
okay.
And then the album has 45 minutes. And then the first track on the album was submitted, I think it's like 5 minutes or 4.5 minutes.
So if you haven't heard this, you got to go hear it. You're going to hear it here, but Spotify, Apple Music, I'm sure you're everywhere, Walt Disney Records. It is topped the Amazon Music charts. It hit #1 on the official Walt Disney World playlist, and it reached iTunes top 10, all while playing in perpetuity at Disney World. So opening Test Track blurs the line between theme park music and how does it blur the line between theme park music and standalone orchestral work?
How does it?
How does it? Yeah.
Yeah. I would say the takeaway is I didn't, approach it at all like this is a theme park music. I approached it like I wanted it to feel like I was going and seeing a blockbuster movie in the 90s. And at first I think Disney was like, I don't know, first of all, I don't want to use full orchestra, but I was pretty sneaky and I was able to make it happen, and it did work. It did work out in the end. So I think that was the thing is it's and it's hybrid. It's full orchestral, big brass sections and sweeping woodwinds, and then all of a sudden it's like dance music, and it just kind of happens out of nowhere. And I really like exploring that. I like bending genres and I like surprising people.
What was the inspiration for that surprise?
Boredom, actually. I find myself really
mixing
bored.
It up.
Yeah, I get bored with like the genres, and I get bored with I get pretty bored with music, to be honest. It's really hard for me to find things that are interesting. I think that's a big part of why I write music, because I'm writing things I want to hear,
Yeah, it sounds like an asset. It sounds like, although it might be hard sometimes when you're bored, but it sounds like an asset that you use, you're able to call up on. So also, as I mentioned in the beginning, your music is heard daily across Star Wars, Galaxy Edge, Disney's Star Cruiser Hotel, Shanghai Disneyland's Adventure in Rhythm. It makes you one of the few composers whose work scores both Hollywood and real world and multi-sensory environments on a global scale. So I want you to go back to your first experience at Disneyland for me. Was it as a kid?
Yeah.
And
Oh yeah, I grew up.
Well, you grew up there. What was your favorite ride?
Oh gosh, growing up, I mean, Space Mountain was killer.
Yeah.
But really for me, I loved the shows. I loved the Indiana Jones Stunt Spectacular. I don't know if you've seen it. So fun, and especially when you're like a little boy and there's like giant boulders fall, and it was. I remember they brought the twin the Nazi plane, right? And they blow it up, like they have a fight on top of it and they blow it up in front of you. I'm like, this is so amazing. It was so inspiring. And I think that got me hooked.
Were you aware of the music in the rides or in Disneyland at that time? Was it something that you were conscious of?
Extremely conscious of, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, I would go I'd go on the rides and then I'd go play it on the piano, you know, from memory, and I would
Wow.
study it, you know. I loved standing in line, and I still do. It's like probably my favorite part because I love listening to the soundtracks.
I've
And
never heard that before.
I absolutely I love it. I love it. When I got this job, my wife and I went and just stood in lines at Epcot and just listened to music and watched people and that's how I learned
Yeah.
about this process of theme park music.
Well, and imagine also watching the reactions and the way that people relate to the music is probably a good study. So
Absolutely.
you talked about leaving Hans Zimmer and going out on your own, and how it was very tough those first couple of years, just learning the business and bringing up, getting work for yourself. How does someone get the job to score a Disney land? I mean, it seems so extremely niche, and it doesn't seem like many people would think of it. And is it something you pursue, or it was did they pursue you?
Definitely did not pursue. I've always seen myself as a film and TV and video game composer, and didn't even really think about that avenue at all. It came to me, and the way that happened was a producer that I had worked on at another Disney studio on a series of Disney films that I had scored. He started working for Walt Disney Imagineering and called me up. I was actually living in Tokyo at the time, working on an animated show called Beyblade, which plays on the Disney Channel, and it played back to back with Pokemon.
Hmm.
And I got a call from my agent saying, "Hey, the producers and executives at Walt Disney Imagineering really want to meet with you about a project." And I said, "Walt Disney Imagineering, they do like rides, you know?" And she's like, "Yeah, I don't know what it's for. They won't tell me." So I got on a plane from Tokyo and I came to LA and I went to their offices in the Valley, and I signed this huge NDA, and they're like, "All right, we're building $1 billion Star Wars theme park, and we want you to do music for it." And I was like, "What? Like, is this real? Like, am I getting punked?
Yeah.
And that's kind of how that went down. And they were like, "Listen, you understand Disney, you do the film music and the score music great, but you're also electronic music producer and you're a DJ and you're doing all these things. We want both. We want Disney Star Wars dance music." And I said, "Well, what's for what?" And we're building a cantina, and there's going to be a robot called DJ Rex, and he's going to play hits from the universe all day long while people are getting drunk in the cantina. And so we want you to write that music. So that's that. It's just like the wildest thing ever. So the first thing I did was I went to Shambhala Music Festival, and I went to as many sets as I could, and I took everyone's name, and then I'd go find them, and I'd say, "I love your stuff. I have to write like 2 hours worth of dance music for Disney Star Wars project. Do you want to collaborate?" And so I basically got all
Oh,
my best friends and DJs together, and we just wrote tons of dance music
oh, cool.
and
So
studied Star
cool.
Wars Star Wars languages, and then wrote lyrics in Star Wars languages, and now you can go hear it at Disneyland and at Disney World.
So cool. Do you play the lottery? And if you don't, do you mind giving me some numbers?
Well, okay, I will say I don't play the lottery, but my wife and I have figured
You
out
should.
we figured out a little hack in Vegas, and we have won 8 luxury cruises, um,
Oh, wow.
doing this like Vegas hack. So we're we're pretty lucky.
You are lucky, but you've got talent to back it up. But yeah, some of your stories, man, such great opportunities that have come your way, all well deserved. Okay, so we're almost finished here, Zane. Thank you so much for giving me so much of your time. Um, I wanted to just mention that as of February 3rd, Josh D'Amaro has been named the new CEO of the Walt Disney Company, succeeding longtime leader CEO Bob Iger. And D'Amaro was previously the chairman of Disney Experiences theme parks, consumer products. I'm not sure if you know him. You probably have bumped into him. He'll officially take over March 18th. So I was watching this interview last night with the two of them and reflecting on his 20-year career. Bob put it beautifully when he said, Disney is more than a brand. It's a cultural institution that lives inside people's lives, often from childhood forward. And that emotional connection is everything. How much do you agree with that? I bet you do.
I mean, it's my motto. You know,
Yeah.
yeah, I live by that. When I started the project, the first thing I did was read a huge biography on Walt Disney, and I've studied him in depth, and I've studied his parks, and I'm just fascinated with the whole vision, and I'm the biggest fan.
And the legacy has got to be there on your shoulders. And
Absolutely.
and how's that, is it too much weight or is it
No,
just such a privilege, right? I
no, it's
imagine
I'm
too.
I'm so grateful. My 40th birthday. This is before I got the Epcot project. And this is before I did Test Track. My wife and I were like, what should we do for my 40th birthday? We decided to go to Disney World for like a week, and we were up at 5 in the morning putting lists together of what rides we were going to do and strategies on how to get through the line. And so, I mean, I genuinely am a fan of the whole thing, and I have a very strong like inner child, I would say, and that's my connection with Disney.
It must be a trip standing in line listening to your own music that you've composed. So I
Yeah.
want to play because we're so close to out of time here, but I got two songs I want to play here. One of your favorite tracks from a folk album you produced 14 years ago called Brave the Cold, and the artist is Dylan Tucker, and the song is called Kingdoms Coming Down. I was listening to the lyrics today, and man, it could be today. It could be talking about somebody today that's in the news. I won't mention the name.
Yeah, I
Is there
think it's
anything
very,
you want to say about it?
I
Why
think
do
it's
you
very
love it so
I,
much?
I think it's very poignant. I was working on an indie film that he had written, and I don't know if he directed it. I think he co-directed it, and he was also acting in it. And after we did the score, I think he was just like playing guitar in the studio, and I was like, whoa, that's really great. What is that? He's like, oh, I wrote it, and I was like, wow, these lyrics are amazing. He's like, you want to hear another one? And so we sat there for like an hour, and he just played like all these amazing like folk Americana songs. And I was like, have you recorded this stuff? He's like, no. And I was like, dude, let's record it. Like, so we just jumped into this thing. I'd never done anything quite like it. And his voice is very unique. It's not like
Mhm.
perfect by standards of Hollywood. And I think that's why I like it, because it's just kind of rough. It's funny, his name's Bob Dylan, because he gives me a lot of that vibe that he channels, Bob Dylan.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, that's that project. I think it's a
Yeah,
really cool
let's
song.
let's listen to it right now. Let me play a little bit right now. All right, so Zane, this has been such a great hour with you. We have to mention though you're working on a new project, a new album, and I also want to play a little clip from. You gave me a teaser track, which is just amazing. It's called Heartbeat, featuring Adrian the Faint. Let me go ahead and play that now, and then on the other side, let's talk about the project. Okay, what tell us all about it, Zane. That's a great song.
So yeah, that's the last song from the opening ceremony that I did at Shambhala Music Festival. And if people want to, I would say, the music I'm very proud of, but I'm also proud of the show, which I also directed. It was my first time directing, choreography and that whole thing. I co-directed it, and it was an experiment for me to merge genres. Like I said, you've got this orchestral stuff, you've got these really pretty vocals, and then you got like electronic music, and it went so well. I decided this is going to be my album. This is gonna be my debut album, and it's a little bit of a taste of what that's gonna sound like. And I'm gonna go to Europe and record full orchestra, and then hopefully be able to take the album and do DJ sets around the world with an orchestra behind me.
And now, if you go to that festival again and you perform there, let me know. Okay, I want to get to that. That sounds like so much fun. I got to put that on my list too. Um, all right, so look out for it, and you'll come back hopefully when you release the album and the singles, and we can play more of it and talk about it, get it out there.
I look forward to that.
Okay, me
I would
too.
love to be back.
Me too. All right. Last thing I wanted to mention, charity work. You may be involved, or maybe you're looking to be involved with animals in a no-kill shelters. Is there anything you'd like to say about that, or anywhere you'd like to direct anybody to that cause?
Yeah, I'll send you all the details. I'm still kind of
Okay, I'll
working
put it
on
in
it.
the podcast copy.
Yeah, I'm very passionate about rescues and animal welfare. Humans, not so much. But animals. I think are they just need our love, and the world needs us to take care of them.
Yeah.
Because animals have saved my life. My dogs are my children. They're my whole life. They're very expensive, by the way. All their
I'm
dog
about to go.
food and their
I'm
food.
about to go walk mine, so I know what you mean. It's the best
Yeah.
part of the day.
Yeah, so that's where let's just say my estate and all that is going to go to animal welfare when I've moved on from this planet.
Well, if there's anything you'd like me to put in the podcast copy, everybody look for that, and we'll do that. I'll do that when you send it over. So I wanted to quote you. Love this. It's off your website. Through my music, it is my greatest wish to return spirit and life to the world. Zain Effendi is the beautiful sentiment, my friend. It's so great to get to know you today. You're incredible. Not only the music, but you're in spirit and friendship. Really enjoyed it. So we're gonna play right now the test track symphonic suite. It's called Opening. Zayn was nominated for a Grammy. We're gonna play it in its entirety, and you can find more on Zayn at zaineffendi.com. ZAINEFFENDI.com. You can get to all his Instagram handles, his Facebook, his X, Spotify, Apple Music, all that, IMDb. You can find out more about Zayn there at zaineffendi.com. Thank you, my friend. Thanks so much for being here today.
It's such a pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, remember the Jeremiah Show airs Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. to 12 p.m. on Radio Evolve Rocks in Santa Barbara. Tune in, listen more, and evolve. Everybody have a great day.